Balinese Hindu Temple Visitation Guide. Bali, Indonesia. Agama Hindu Dharma. 20,000 temples on one island. Daily offerings of flowers, incense, and rice, placed everywhere, for everyone. The gamelan begins, and the entire village knows the gods are arriving. The sarong at the gate is not a costume, it is the entry price into sacred space. Bali's sacred tradition is the most fully lived sacred life of any culture on earth today. Halinyori Temple Series, Me Pirai Hangnidi 10 Predation. Contents. Introduction, Why Bali is Different. Part 1, Agama Hindu Dharma, Balinese Hinduism. Part 2, The Trihita Karana, 3 Causes of Well-Being. Part 3, The Temple System, 20,000 pura on one island. Part 4, Temple Architecture, Reading the Pura. Part 5, The Kanangsari, Daily Offerings Everywhere. Part 6, The Dress Code, Sarong, Sash, and Entering Correctly. Part 7, Before You Enter, What Visitors Must Know. Part 8, The Complete Temple Visit, Step by Step. Part 9, Tirtha, Holy Water, and How to Receive It. Part 10, The Odalan Temple Birthday Ceremony. Part 11, The Gamelan, Sacred Music of the Gods. Part 12, Sacred Dance, Kekak, Legong, and Barong. Part 13, The Major Temples Open to Visitors. Part 14, What the Offerings Mean. Part 15, Pamangku and Padanda, The Priests. Part 16, The Balinese Calendar and Sacred Time. Part 17, What Not to Do. Part 18, The Halagricity Lens, Bali, and the Fully Sacred Life. Introduction. Bali is unique in the world, an island of 4 million people where the entire fabric of daily life is saturated with active sacred practice. Approximately 20,000 temples on a single island. Daily offerings placed every morning at every doorstep, at every intersection, before every shop and vehicle and tree that matters. The gamelan orchestra playing for the gods at Odalan ceremonies throughout the year. Sacred dance performed not for tourists but for divine audiences as an act of devotion. Balinese Hinduism is not Indian Hinduism transplanted. It is a 1,000-year creative synthesis of Indian Hindu cosmology and theology, with indigenous Balinese animist tradition, ancestor veneration, and the specific genius of Balinese artistic and ceremonial culture. The result is a sacred tradition of extraordinary richness, extraordinary community coherence, and extraordinary accessibility to the sincere outside visitor. Bali receives millions of visitors every year, and the Balinese have developed a clear etiquette framework for how visitors can participate respectfully in their sacred life. This guide gives you everything you need: what to wear, how to enter, what the offerings mean, how to receive holy water, what the gamelan is doing, and how to experience the full depth of what Bali's sacred tradition is offering. A visitor who arrives with genuine respect and genuine curiosity is welcome in most Balinese sacred spaces. This guide makes that welcome possible. Agama Hindu Dharma, Balinese Hinduism. Agama Hindu Dharma is the official name of Balinese Hinduism, as recognized by the Indonesian state. It is recognizably Hindu in its foundational cosmology, but distinctively Balinese in almost every dimension of its practice. What makes Balinese Hinduism distinctive? Balinese Hinduism versus Indian Hinduism. Ancestor veneration, far more prominent in Bali than in Indian Hinduism. The deified ancestors of each community are worshipped alongside the great Hindu deities, and most temples exist primarily to house and honor these specific ancestral presences. Sakala and Niskala, Bali's cosmological distinction between the visible world and the invisible world, permeates all of daily life. The Niskala dimension is not separate from or less real than the Sakala. It is always present, always active, always requiring the community's attention and maintenance. The arts as sacred practice, dance, music, wood carving, weaving, and painting are understood as sacred offerings to the divine, not entertainment. A dancer performing the Legong does not perform for an audience. She performs for the gods who are watching. The role of the whole community, ceremony in Bali, is not a specialized activity performed by priests on behalf of passive congregants. It is a total community effort in which every member participates. Men carry the offering towers, women make the kanangsari, children learn the dances, and the entire banjar mobilizes for the sacred events of the calendar. Ritual density. The Balinese sacred calendar creates a near-continuous sequence of ceremonies. The average Balinese person participates in major ceremonies multiple times each month, making Bali's sacred practice the most time-intensive of any living tradition. The Trihita Karana, 3 Causes of Well-Being. The foundational philosophical principle of Balinese Hinduism is Trihita Karana, the 3 causes of well-being, the 3 right relationships whose maintenance constitutes the Balinese understanding of the good life. Trihita Karana, the 3 relationships. Parahayangan, right relationship with the divine, the ongoing, active, properly maintained relationship between the human community and the divine realm, expressed through temple ceremony, through daily offerings, through the maintenance of the 20,000 pura, through the sacred arts. When the relationship with the divine is properly maintained, the community receives the blessings of divine protection, fertility, and guidance. Pawangan, right relationship with other human beings, the ongoing, harmonious, mutually supportive relationships within the human community, expressed through the banjar system, through the communal labor that maintains the temples and executes the ceremonies, through the elaborate system of social reciprocity that governs Balinese family and community life. Palemahan, right relationship with the natural world, the ongoing, respectful, sustainable relationship between the human community and the natural environment, the rice fields, the forests, the rivers, the sea, and the land. The Balinese understanding that the natural world is not a resource to be exploited, but a living partner in the community's sacred life. The complete picture, the Trihita Karana, holds that well-being, for the individual, the community, and the ecosystem, depends on all 3 relationships being maintained simultaneously. Prosperity that damages any one of the three is not genuine prosperity. This is the Balinese philosophical objection to development models that prioritize economic growth at the expense of sacred practice or community cohesion or environmental health. Connection to halagricity. The Trihita Karana, right relationship with the divine, with other human beings, and with the natural world, is the Balinese articulation of what halagricity holds about the practitioner's complete sacred orientation. The halagric tetralty's 4 dimensions all operate within the context of these 3 relationships. The feeling dimension is the felt quality of all 3. The thinking dimension understands them. The speaking dimension names and honors them. The doing dimension maintains them through specific daily practice. The Balinese tradition has built an entire civilization around maintaining all 3. The 20,000 temples are the Parahyangan infrastructure. The Banjar system is the Pawangan infrastructure. The Subak irrigation system is the Palemahan infrastructure. This is what a Trihita Karana civilization looks like in practice. The temple system 20,000 pura on one island. Bali has an estimated 20,000 temples, approximately 1 temple for every 200 people. This extraordinary density of sacred architecture is the physical expression of the Balinese understanding that every location, every social group, and every aspect of life requires its own dedicated sacred space. The 3 village temples. Every traditional Balinese village has 3 primary temples that together serve the full range of the community's spiritual needs. The Pura Desa is the village temple proper, the place of community ceremony, and the home of the village's protective deities. The Pura Pushe is the naval temple, oriented toward Mount Agung, the most sacred direction, and associated with the origin and ancestry of the village community. The Pura Dalam is the temple of the dead, associated with Siwa in its transformative aspect and with the deified ancestors. Beyond the 3 village temples, Bali's temple system extends to include family temples maintained within the compounds of each extended family, rice field temples, craft and occupational temples, and the great state temples that serve the island as a whole. The most sacred is Pura Besaki, the mother temple of Bali on the slopes of Mount Agung, which contains more than 80 separate temple structures and serves as the supreme sacred site for all Balinese Hindus. Major temples open to visitors. Pura Besaki, on the slopes of Mount Agung, 1,000 meters above sea level. The most sacred temple complex in Bali, 23 separate temples in a single complex. Active Odolan ceremonies occur here nearly every day. Visitors are welcome in the outer areas. The innermost shrines are for Balinese Hindus only during active ceremonies. Warning, aggressive unofficial guides and high entrance fees have been historical problems. Enter with clear awareness of official pricing. Pura Ulun Danu Beratan, the spectacular water temple on Lake Beratan in the highlands, the most photographed temple in Bali, appearing to float on the lake. Dedicated to Dewi Danu, goddess of the lake and of water. Pura Tanalot, built on a rock formation in the sea, accessible only at low tide, with tide pools containing sacred sea snakes. One of Bali's most iconic images. Best to visit at sunset when the silhouette against the orange sky is extraordinary. Pura Tira Empel, the holy spring temple near Tampak Sari, the site of one of Bali's most important purification bathing traditions. Visitors may participate in the Malukat with appropriate preparation. Pura Uluwatu, perched on a 70-meter cliff at Bali's southern tip, home to a large troop of macaque monkeys. Famous for the Kikak fire dance performed at sunset. Temple architecture read in the Pura. A Balinese temple is an open-air compound rather than an enclosed building, a series of courtyards separated by gates and shrines of varying sizes and sacred significance. The temple is not a building you enter, it is a sacred landscape you move through, with increasing sacred intensity as you move from the outer courtyard through the middle courtyard to the innermost sacred courtyard. Pura architectural elements. Kandi Bentar, the characteristic Balinese entrance gate, 2 identical halves of a carved stone tower, split perfectly down the middle and separate a narrow passage between them. The split represents the division between the ordinary and sacred worlds. Pass through it with awareness. Koriagang, the subsequent gate, a complete roof structure with a central door that is kept closed except during ceremonies, with side openings for ordinary passage. The Koriagung is more elaborate and more sacred than the Kandi Bentar, the threshold between the outer and inner precincts. Meru, the distinctive multi-tiered black thatched towers that are the visual signature of Balinese temples. Each tier represents a level of the cosmic mountain, 3, 5, 7, 9, or 11 tiers, with the highest tier reserved for the highest divine beings. The 11-tiered Meru is the most sacred and is reserved for Shiva, or the supreme divine. Padmasana, the high stone throne, typically the tallest structure in the temple, positioned in the most auspicious corner. This is the seat of Sanghyang Widiwasa, the supreme divine during ceremonies. Beilagong, the large pavilion where community meetings and specific ceremonies are held. Pelinga, smaller stone shrines throughout the temple complex, each the seat of a specific divine being or ancestral spirit during ceremonies. The number and specific arrangement of Pelangish communicate the temple's specific sacred function and the specific divine community it serves. The Kanang Sari daily offerings everywhere. The Kanang Sari is Hinduism, a small square tray woven from young coconut palm fronds, filled with flowers arranged by color in specific directions, with incense, rice cake, and sometimes other small items. Every Balinese Hindu woman makes Kanang Sari daily and places them everywhere. At the household's family temple, at the doorstep, at the base of significant trees, at road intersections, at the shop counter, at the dashboard of a vehicle before the family rice barn. What Kanang Sari are? The word Kanang Sari means approximately beautiful flower essence. The offering is understood as the essence of the practitioner's daily devotion, condensed into a beautiful form and offered to the divine presences that inhabit every aspect of daily life. The Kanang Sari is not a petition, it is a thank you. It is the daily acknowledgement that everything the Balinese community has is a gift from the divine, and that the divine deserves daily material acknowledgement of that gift. The flower colors and directions. The flowers in a Kanang Sari are arranged in 4 quadrants corresponding to the 4 cardinal directions, each with a specific color and a specific divine association. White flowers face east, red flowers face south, yellow flowers face west, blue or green flowers face north. Together, the 4 directions and 4 colors represent the complete mandala of the divine, the wholeness of the sacred order honored in a palm leaf tray the size of your palm. For visitors, how to behave around Kanang Sari. Do not step on them. The Kanang Sari are placed on the ground precisely because they are offerings to the divine presences that inhabit the earth. Stepping on them is the same as desecrating an altar. Look where you walk in Bali, the ground is full of sacred offerings. Do not pick them up. The Kanang Sari belong to the divine being, for whom they were made. Taking them, photographing them from very close range, or disturbing them in any way is inappropriate. The incense stick. Many Kanang Sari have a stick of incense protruding from the flowers. If you see smoke rising from a Kanang Sari, it is currently active, recently placed, and still being received by the divine. This is the most sacred moment. Treat it with maximum respect. Can you make one? If you are staying with a Balinese family or attending a class on Balinese culture, learning to make Kanang Sari is a wonderful practice. Done with genuine intention, as a practice of daily gratitude and acknowledgement, it is the most directly holigric practice available to a visitor in Bali. The practice of making and placing Kanang Sari daily is, for the Balinese, the most fundamental sacred practice of all. The dress code, sarong, sash, and entering correctly. Balinese temples have the most specific and most consistently enforced dress requirements of any sacred site in this guide, requirements that are not merely cultural preference, but expressions of specific theological principles about the sacred nature of the temple space and the appropriate state of those who enter it. Mandatory dress for Balinese temple entry, sarong, a wrapped cloth that covers from waist to ankle. This is non-negotiable and universal. No temple in Bali will allow entry without a sarong. Most temples provide them for rent at the gate if you have not brought your own. The sarong should be long enough to cover the ankles completely. Sash, a cloth tied around the waist over the sarong. The sash is the marker of your intention to behave appropriately in sacred space. It marks you as a person who recognizes the boundary between the sacred and ordinary. The sash is typically tied with a knot on the left side. Upper body, shoulders should be covered. Bring a shawl, shirt with sleeves, or temple-appropriate top. Strapless, sleeveless, or revealing tops are not appropriate in temple spaces. Feet, temples are typically open air, and you may wear sandals through the outer areas. In some inner courtyards, and during ceremonies, shoes are removed. Menstruation. Women who are menstruating are traditionally not permitted to enter Balinese temples. This is not a judgment. It is the Balinese understanding that the energy of menstrual blood is incompatible with the upward mountain, life-associated energy of the temple space during ceremony. This restriction is observed seriously by Balinese practitioners. Signs of the temple gate will indicate this requirement. Why the sarong? The sarong covers the lower body, the part associated with the physical, earthly Sakala dimension. The temple is the space where the Niskala dimension is most concentrated. Covering the lower body creates a visual and energetic container that is appropriate for the sacred space. You are not hiding your body. You are honoring the difference between the ordinary and the sacred by dressing in a way that acknowledges that difference. Before you enter, what visitors must know. Essential preparation for Balinese temple visits. Timing. The best time to visit a temple is during its Odlan, but these can be overwhelming and inaccessible for uninitiated visitors. For a meaningful visit without ceremony, late morning or early afternoon on non-festival days is quietest and most accessible. Check the calendar. The Balinese sacred calendar determines which temples are active on which days. During major island to wide ceremonies, specific etiquette applies across all temples. Check what is happening before visiting. Bring your own sarong and sash. While temples rent them, having your own shows respect and preparation. A simple batik sarong purchased in any Balinese market is appropriate. Bring a small offering. A simple offering is always appropriate. A small bunch of flowers, a stick of incense, and a few coins can be assembled quickly. Many temples have a basket near the gate where visitor offerings are placed. Approach with quietness and slowness. The frenetic tourist pace is the least appropriate approach to a Balinese temple. Slow down. Look. The entire environment is communicating something. The carvings on the gate, the arrangement of the shrines, the direction the Mary faces. Allow the space to communicate before you try to capture it. Engage with the Pemangku. The temple's resident priest is often available at major temples and is generally welcoming of sincere visitors. A brief interaction, a respectful gesture of greeting, a question asked with genuine curiosity, often yields the most significant access to the temple's meaning. The complete temple visit step by step. Balinese temple visit, complete guide. The gate. Dress in your sarong and sash before approaching the gate, not inside. If the gate requires you to purchase or rent a sarong, do so before the entrance. Pause at the Kandi Bentar. Brief bow or pressed hands in the Hindu Anjali position toward the temple. Pass through the split gate. Either side is appropriate. The outer courtyard. This is the most public area of the temple, where markets, community activities, and general gatherings occur during festivals. Move slowly. Observe carefully. The outer courtyard often has secondary shrines and specific sacred trees. The middle courtyard. Increased sacred intensity. Bale here are used for specific ceremonial activities. If you are bearing a small offering, place it here on the designated offering table or in the offering basket before the appropriate shrine. Light incense if you have it. Hold it in both hands, bow briefly toward the main inner shrine, then place it in the available holder. The inner courtyard, the most sacred area where the main shrines are located. During non-ceremony times, visitors may be permitted in the Jeron. During active ceremonies, the Jeron is typically for Balinese practitioners only. If permitted entry, move slowly, speak little, do not photograph the active shrines without clear permission, and do not sit higher than the shrine structures. Receiving tirtha. If a pamangku offers you holy water, receive it gratefully. See Part 9 for complete instructions. Sitting and receiving, find a space where you can sit quietly. Sit in the cross-legged or kneeling position, never with legs extended toward the shrines. Allow yourself 10 minutes of simply being present in the space before you leave. The temple's effect is cumulative. The longer you sit in genuine receptivity, the more you receive. Tirtha holy water and how to receive it. Tirtha is the most sacred substance in Balinese Hinduism, the primary material vehicle for divine blessing, purification, and the transmission of the priest's sacred power to the devotee. Agama Hindu Dharma is sometimes called Agama Tirtha precisely because holy water is so central to every ceremony and every prayer. What Tirtha is? Tirtha is water that has been consecrated through specific prayers, specific mantras, and specific ritual procedures by qualified priest. The consecration infuses the water with the divine energy invoked through the prayer sequence. The most sacred tirtha is produced by the Padanda through an elaborate sequence of mudras, mantras, and sacred breath that transforms ordinary water into a vehicle of concentrated divine grace. Receiving tirtha, exact sequence. The offering of tirtha is one of the most important moments of a Balinese ceremony. A pamangku or Padanda will offer it from a small vessel using a flower as the sprinkler. Here is exactly what to do. Step 1, approach. Come to the priest with your hands pressed together. Bow your head slightly. Step 2, receive the first sprinkle. The priest will sprinkle tirtha over your head and hair. Receive this with eyes closed and head bowed. This is purification, the holy water clearing your entire field of any spiritual debris before the blessing that follows. Step 3, cup your hands. Open your cupped right hand to receive a small amount of tirtha in your palm. Step 4, drink 3 times. Bring the cupped water to your lips and sip 3 times, not a large gulp, but 3 small. The 3 steps honor the Trimurti, or the 3 levels of the cosmos. Step 5, wet your hands with any remaining tirtha on your hands. Wet your hair at the top of your head, drawing the blessing inward at the crown, the seat of the highest divine faculty. Step 6, the bija. After the water, the priest may press a few grains of consecrated rice onto your forehead between your eyebrows. Receive this by holding still. The rice stays on your forehead. Don't wipe it off immediately. Wear it as a mark of having received the divine blessing. If you are not Balinese Hindu, many pamangku will offer tirtha to sincere non-Hindu visitors as a gesture of blessing and welcome. Receive it with the same full attention and gratitude as a Balinese devotee. The tirtha's blessing is not limited by doctrinal affiliation. It is given by the kami to those who come with sincerity. The Odalan Temple Birthday Ceremony. Every temple in Bali has its own Odalan, its birthday, the anniversary of its consecration, celebrated according to the Balinese Pawakon calendar and therefore recurring every 210 days. An Odalan is the most important event in that temple's calendar, the day when the divine presence is invited to inhabit the temple are most fully present, when the community gathers to honor them, when the most elaborate offerings are prepared, and when the sacred arts are performed for the divine audience. What happens at Odalan? An Odalan begins days in advance with the preparation of elaborate offerings, towers of fruit and flowers carried on women's heads to the temple, specially prepared temple foods, woven palm leaf decorations erected outside homes throughout the village. On the day itself, the gates of the temple are opened, the gods are ceremonially welcomed, offerings are presented, the pamangku distributes tirtha, the gamelan plays, and sacred dance may be performed. For visitors, a tea dalan. Permission, many Odalan ceremonies welcome respectful observers in the outer courtyards. Simply ask, "Boleh masuk?" before entering a temple that has ceremony in progress. Dress, your sarong and sash must be correct and neat, not casually tied. During Odalan, the standard is higher than during ordinary visits. Offerings, if you wish to participate, purchase a small pre-made offering at a stall near the temple. Carrying an offering communicates that you have come to give, not merely to observe. Behavior, sit quietly in the designated areas for observers. Do not photograph the active ceremony without permission. Do not speak loudly. If the gamelan begins, understand that the divine presences are arriving. Increase your quality of attention. The jibogan, the spectacular offering towers, 4 to 6 feet tall, made entirely of fruit, flowers, and intricately crafted palm leaf decorations, carried on women's heads, are one of the most visually extraordinary sacred art forms in the world. They are not for show. Each one is an offering made with specific prayers and specific intentions. The time invested in making them is the offering itself. The gamelan, sacred music of the gods. The gamelan is the traditional percussion orchestra of Bali and Java, an ensemble of metallophones, gongs, drums, and flutes that produces one of the most distinctive and most beautiful musical sounds in the world. In Bali, the gamelan is not entertainment. It is the primary musical offering to the divine, the sound that signals the divine presence's arrival, that sustains the sacred atmosphere of ceremony, and that accompanies the sacred dances performed for the gods. The sacred function of gamelan. When the gamelan begins playing at the opening of an Odalan ceremony, the Balinese understand that the divine presences are beginning to arrive. The specific pieces played, specific compositions associated with specific sacred moments, are as liturgically precise as the chants of any other tradition. The wrong piece at the wrong moment is not merely a musical mistake, it is a ritual error. The master gamelan players know not only how to produce beautiful music, but which musical offering is appropriate, at which moment of which ceremony. The sound of gamelan. Balinese gamelan is characterized by a specific tuning system that is different from Western equal temperament. Each gamelan ensemble is tuned uniquely, with instruments made as pairs that produce the characteristic shimmering or beating effect when played together. This acoustic phenomenon, two slightly detuned instruments played simultaneously, produces a sound that seems to vibrate in the air between the instruments, creating a living, pulsing quality that straight-tuned instruments cannot achieve. Connection to halagricity. The gamelan's beating frequency, the acoustic phenomenon produced by two instruments tuned slightly apart, creating a pulsing shimmer in the air between them, is the Balinese sacred music tradition's specific sonic technology for creating the energetic conditions within which the divine presences are most accessible. This is the same principle as the Chinese temple drum and gong, the Tibetan singing bowl's overtone series, and the Aboriginal didgeridoos' sustained drone. Specific acoustic frequencies produce specific states of consciousness and specific qualities of sacred space. The gamelan is the most elaborate and most beautiful of these sacred sound technologies, an entire orchestra designed to produce the specific sonic conditions that the divine requires for their arrival. Sacred dance kikak, legong, and barong. Balinese sacred dance is one of the most extraordinary artistic and spiritual traditions in the world, a living practice in which specific dance forms, with specific costumes, specific music, and specific sacred stories, are performed as offerings to the divine. The dances are not performers seeking an audience's approval. They are vehicles through which sacred stories are enacted for divine witnesses. The major sacred dance forms. Legong, one of the most refined and technically demanding of Balinese dances, performed by young girls in elaborate golden headdresses and batik costumes. The legong narrates specific sacred stories through extremely precise movements of the fingers, hands, eyes, and neck. Every position of every finger carries specific meaning. The dance is a visual prayer. Kikak, a spectacular ceremony performed by a large circle of bare-chested men chanting kak 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 in interlocking rhythmic patterns, creating a percussive vocal orchestra with no instruments. The chanting accompanies the telling of the Ramayana story, with specific men embodying Rama, Sita, Hanuman, and Ravana. The kikak began in the 1930s as an adaptation of the Sangyang trance dance tradition. Barong and Rangda, the most theologically significant dance in Bali, a representation of the eternal battle between Barong and Rangda. The dance does not end with victory for either side. Barong and Rangda are perpetual opposites in dynamic balance, neither permanently defeating the other. This is the Balinese theological recognition that good and evil, order and chaos, are not absolutes but eternal complementary forces requiring ongoing management rather than permanent resolution. Sangyang, the sacred trance dances, specifically designed to invite divine presences to inhabit the bodies of specific dancer mediums. The most authentic form of Balinese sacred possession dance, typically not performed for public audiences. Where to see sacred dance? Tourist performances of legong and kikak are staged at major temples and in specific performance venues. The best sacred dance experiences are at actual Odalan ceremonies, where the dance is performed for the gods rather than for visitors. The Balinese calendar and sacred time. The Balinese use two interlocking calendars that together create the most complex and most ceremonially dense sacred timekeeping system in the world, generating a near-continuous sequence of auspicious and inauspicious days, festivals, and ceremonies. The two Balinese calendars. The Pawakon, a unique Balinese calendar of 210 days organized through the interlocking of multiple week cycles. The Pawakon determines the Odalan dates of each temple, the auspicious dates for ceremonies, and the ritual character of each day. A person's birthday in the Pawakon system recurs every 210 days, and the 210th day birthday is one of the most important ceremonies in a Balinese child's life. The Saka, a Balinese adaptation of the Indian Saka calendar, organized in lunar months and used to calculate the dates of major Pan to Balinese festivals. Galungan and Kuningan, the most important Pan-Balinese festival, occurring every 210 days. During the 10 days of Galungan, the ancestral spirits descend to earth and are welcomed in every home and temple. Pendra poles are erected along every road. On Galungan Day, all Balinese dress in their finest ceremonial clothes and visit the temples. Kuningan, 10 days after Galungan, is the day the ancestors depart, marked by yellow rice offerings and specific ceremonies. Nyepi, the Balinese New Year, a day of absolute silence across the entire island. No vehicles move, no lights burn, no one leaves their compound, and the airport closes. Tourists in Bali are required to participate. You will be confined to your hotel. The silence is the sacred technology for tricking any remaining evil spirits into believing the island is uninhabited, so they leave. The night before Nyepi features the most spectacular procession, enormous ogo-ogo paraded through the streets before being burned. What not to do? Balinese temple, prohibited behaviors. Do not enter without a sarong and sash, ever. No exceptions. This requirement exists at every temple without exception. Do not enter if menstruating. The restriction is observed seriously and is posted at temple gates. Do not step on or photograph Kanang Sari offerings carelessly. They are sacred objects on the ground, not photo props or obstacles. Do not touch sacred objects, the carved figures on gates, the offerings on shrine seats, the sacred implements, without explicit invitation. Do not sit higher than the shrines or the priests. Elevation communicates sacred status. Visitors should never be in a physically elevated position relative to sacred structures or officiating priests. Do not point your feet toward shrines, priests, or sacred objects. Feet are the lowest sacred part of the body. Pointing them to what is sacred is disrespectful. Do not enter the Jeroen during active ceremonies unless specifically invited. The inner courtyard during ceremony is sacred space for Balinese practitioners. Do not photograph dancers during sacred trance dance. This is a sacred ceremony, not a performance for your camera. During Sangyang and other genuine sacred dances, photography can disrupt the practitioner's trance state. Do not treat the temple as a background for selfies. This is the single most common inappropriate behavior by visitors, and the one that causes the most offense to Balinese practitioners. Do not bring non-vegetarian food into the temple compound during ceremony. Meat energetically associated with the lower dimensions of existence is not appropriate in the upward-oriented sacred space. The Halagricity lens Bali and the fully sacred life. Bali offers the Halagricity practitioner something unique among all the traditions in this guide. A living, contemporary, fully functioning example of a civilization, built entirely around the recognition that the sacred is not a separate department of life, but its fundamental dimension. The 20,000 temples are the physical infrastructure of a theology. The daily Kanangsari are the smallest practice of that theology expressed in palm and flower every morning. The gamelan, the sacred dance, the Odalan ceremonies, the Trihita Karana social philosophy, all of it is the same recognition, expressed at different scales. The Kanangsari and the Halagric meal blessing. The daily Kanangsari, the morning offering of flowers, incense, and rice, made to the divine presences that inhabit every aspect of ordinary life, is the closest ancient parallel to the Halagric meal blessing in any tradition. Both are daily practices that transform a routine act into a sacred one by inserting a moment of explicit acknowledgement of the divine at the center of ordinary activity. The Balinese woman who makes a morning Kanangsari before cooking is doing the same thing as the Halagric practitioner who performs the meal blessing before eating, acknowledging that the food, the sustenance, the life itself, is a divine gift requiring daily, material acknowledgement. Sas offering. The Balinese understanding that the arts, dance, music, carving, weaving, are sacred offerings to the divine rather than self-expressions for human audiences is one of the most important teachings Bali offers the Halagricity practitioner. The creative dimension of any Halagric practice, the writing, the making, the expressing, understood not as personal achievement to be evaluated by other people, but as offering to the divine. This is the Balinese orientation. Create something with the understanding that it is an offering rather than a product. The quality of presence you bring to it completely transforms. Connection to Halagricity. Bali demonstrates at civilizational scale what Halagricity holds at individual practice scale. That the sacred is not a compartment of life, but its pervasive dimension, and that a community which organizes its entire collective life around the recognition and maintenance of that dimension creates something of extraordinary beauty and extraordinary resilience. 20,000 temples, daily offerings at every doorstep, the gamelan playing for the gods, the entire island falling silent on Yepi so that the sacred can be heard. This is what happens when a tradition takes the Trihita Karana seriously for 1,000 years. Grand Rising, Om Swastiastu, may all beings be in happiness, may all beings be in peace. Traditional Balinese Hindu greeting. Bali is not a tourist destination that happens to have beautiful temples. It is a living sacred civilization that happens to accept visitors. Enter it as a guest with genuine respect, genuine curiosity, and genuine willingness to receive what it is offering. The daily Kanangsari at your guesthouse doorstep is an offering to the divine presences that inhabit that space. Step over it carefully. Smell the incense. Remember that you're in a place where the sacred is not elsewhere. Grand Rising. Halagricity Temple Series Halagricity, or May 2026.